Part 1. Kindness in an Era of Hostility. A Paradox of Modern Warfare. Introduction. The timeless wisdom, "Blessed are the kind of heart, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," resonates deeply through centuries, calling humanity toward compassion, empathy, and mercy. Yet, paradoxically, kindness in the contemporary global landscape, particularly within the geopolitical tensions among the United States, Israel, and Iran, often finds itself relegated to a position of perceived weakness or idealistic fantasy. In an age dominated by political strength, military prowess, and strategic advantage, the concept of kindness in international politics appears as an oxymoron. However, could authentic kindness be a hidden yet potent antidote to the seemingly endless cycles of hostility? Kindness as weakness, the dominant narrative. Historically and culturally, strength and toughness are celebrated virtues, especially within the realms of politics and warfare. The narrative of geopolitical strength thrives on the binary opposition: winners versus losers, strength versus vulnerability, aggression versus passivity. The current tensions involving the United States, Israel, and Iran exemplify this pattern vividly. The repeated cycles of retaliation and escalation reinforce the belief that aggression, not kindness, dictates survival and victory. Israel's robust military responses, America's strategic displays of power, and Iran's defiant military advancements all contribute to a global narrative that kindness equals vulnerability. The mere suggestion of kindness, empathy, or restraint in these contexts is often dismissed as naivete or weakness. This misconception fundamentally distorts the virtue of kindness, reducing it from an empowered choice into an undesirable trait incompatible with security and strength. Yet, history also holds significant examples where acts of kindness and humanitarian gestures fundamentally altered conflict trajectories and transformed adversarial relationships. Historical reflections. Kindness as strength. To challenge the prevailing narrative, historical reflections can provide a compelling counterargument. The Marshall Plan, implemented by the U.S. after World War II, is a prime example. Instead of punishing defeated nations, America extended kindness in the form of extensive financial aid, fostering long-term peace, stability, and alliances that still profoundly benefit global relations. Another critical example involves the aftermath of World War II regarding Israel's own foundation. Compassionate international actions, driven by kindness and empathy towards survivors of unprecedented atrocities, facilitated Israel's establishment and survival. These examples demonstrate how kindness, even in politically hostile environments, can result in lasting and meaningful geopolitical stability. Contemporary examples. When kindness breaks the cycle in recent years, despite significant tensions, isolated yet powerful acts of kindness have created brief moments of hope amidst conflict. Humanitarian gestures, such as medical aid provided by Israeli hospitals to Syrian civilians affected by civil war, or Iranian aid efforts following regional disasters, briefly disrupt the narratives of hostility. These instances illustrate kindness not as passive weakness, but as courageous choices made amid significant risk. They remind the global community of a shared humanity that transcends political narratives. Though these examples remain infrequent and often underreported, their mere existence challenges the dominance of aggression-based politics. Re-evaluating geopolitical strength through kindness. Kindness as a geopolitical strategy proposes a radical departure from traditional diplomacy based on deterrence and coercion. Advocates argue that kindness could become a viable form of soft power, capable of achieving what coercion and military might cannot. While critics may argue kindness could leave nations vulnerable, a nuanced perspective reveals how strategic kindness, combined with strength, offers an untapped diplomatic tool. For instance, diplomatic kindness, such as genuine peace negotiations and mutually beneficial economic cooperation, has historically proven more sustainable than military conquest or imposed sanctions. The normalization agreements between Israel and several Arab nations under the Abraham Accords serve as a contemporary case study. where kindness in the form of dialogue and mutual recognition has paved the path to greater regional stability. The challenge of implementing kindness, despite the historical and contemporary evidence supporting kindness, strategic wisdom, significant barriers remain. Media portrayal often favors stories of conflict over narratives of reconciliation, influencing public opinion toward suspicion and hostility rather than openness to kindness. Political leaders risk their popularity and power by embracing kindness, fearing backlash for perceived weakness. Moreover, deeply rooted mistrust between Iran, Israel, and the United States exacerbates challenges, making kindness risky. Realpolitik and internal political pressures heavily incentivize aggression and harsh rhetoric. Consequently, acts of kindness require immense courage and strategic foresight from leaders willing to risk political capital to pursue long-term peace over short-term gains. Kindness as the true path to the kingdom of heaven. Returning to the biblical verse, kindness is indeed portrayed as the ultimate virtue, rewarded with the kingdom of heaven. Metaphorically, this kingdom could represent a harmonious, peaceful, and prosperous global community, one far from the current geopolitical tensions and conflicts. Thus, embracing kindness in diplomacy is not mere idealism. Rather, it may be a pragmatic, even necessary, shift towards sustainable peace and genuine human progress. This vision, however idealistic, is rooted in the profound understanding that kindness inherently acknowledges and respects humanity's shared dignity. It challenges adversaries to meet on common ground, fostering dialogue rather than conflict, understanding rather than retaliation, and compassion rather than hostility. Conclusion: a call for courageous kindness. In an era dominated by fear, suspicion, and hostility, the biblical call to kindness stands as both countercultural and revolutionary. The paradox is clear. Kindness is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength, requiring bravery, wisdom, and resilience. The ongoing geopolitical conflicts between the United States, Israel, and Iran provide stark reminders of the urgent need to reassess conventional notions of strength and weakness. Ultimately, to pursue kindness in geopolitical context is to embark on the path less traveled, a path fraught with challenges, yet uniquely capable of leading humanity toward enduring peace and cooperation. In this reframing, kindness becomes not only morally virtuous, but strategically imperative. It transforms from a mere aspiration to the key that unlocks the kingdom of heaven, a reality where compassion triumphs over perpetual conflict. Part 2. The Misinterpretation of Kindness in International Politics. Introduction. Blessed are the kind of heart, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This profound biblical message underscores kindness as a supreme virtue leading to divine reward. Yet, within the complicated fabric of international politics, particularly amidst tense relationships between the United States, Israel, and Iran, kindness often encounters significant distortion. Rather than celebrated as noble or courageous, kindness is frequently misinterpreted as naive or dangerously passive. This misinterpretation profoundly shapes diplomatic relations, limits peaceful solutions, and perpetuates cycles of conflict. Kindness as vulnerability, the dominant perception. In contemporary international relations, strength is conventionally measured by military might, economic sanctions, and forceful diplomacy. Kindness, however, is consistently misunderstood, equated with weakness or indecision. When leaders extend gestures of compassion, empathy, or understanding, adversaries commonly perceive these actions as strategic vulnerabilities to exploit. For instance, when the United States has historically attempted diplomatic outreach towards Iran, critics have often framed such approaches as appeasement. Similarly, within Israel, moves toward peaceful coexistence with neighbors or adversaries frequently trigger accusations of weakness, undermining the political validity of compassionate policies. Such perspectives reinforce aggressive strategies and dismiss opportunities for meaningful dialogue or reconciliation, limiting the potential for long-term peace and stability. Historical lessons misread intentions of kindness. history provides instructive examples illustrating how misinterpretations of kindness can profoundly influence international relations. The Iran nuclear deal of 2015 JCPOA exemplifies this scenario. While supporters viewed the agreement as an act of diplomatic kindness and mutual trust building, opponents within the United States and Israel interpreted it as dangerous naivete. Ultimately, these negative perceptions contributed significantly to the deal's collapse, resulting in renewed hostilities and heightened tensions. Another example is the Oslo Accords between Israel and Palestine. Initially celebrated as diplomatic breakthroughs marked by mutual compassion and compromise, these acts of kindness quickly became politicized. Over time, extremist voices on both sides depicted kindness as betrayal or weakness, gradually undermining the accord's effectiveness and causing a relapse into conflict and mistrust. Iran, Israel, and the United States. Current dynamics today. Relations among Iran, Israel, and the United States illustrate the devastating effects of misunderstanding kindness. Efforts by U.S. administrations to engage Iran diplomatically routinely portrayed domestically as appeasement or capitulation, limiting political support for peaceful resolutions. Iranian leadership similarly casts attempts at engagement as deceptive maneuvers rather than sincere diplomatic overtures, reinforcing mutual suspicion and hostility. Within Israel, any political figure advocating compassionate diplomatic approaches toward regional adversaries faces severe domestic backlash. This cultural and political climate shapes policies that prioritize military assertiveness over diplomatic kindness, perpetuating cycles of violence and instability. Thus, kindness, a potentially powerful diplomatic tool, remains tragically misunderstood, often discarded before genuinely explored. The weaponization of kindness. Ironically, kindness, when occasionally employed in international politics, often emerges in a weaponized form. Countries leverage humanitarian aid or diplomatic overtures strategically to exert influence rather than authentically seek reconciliation. Such transactional kindness fosters cynicism and mistrust, further tarnishing genuine diplomatic gestures. For example, humanitarian aid from the United States or Israel in regional crises often faces scrutiny, with critics claiming hidden political agendas. Iranian humanitarian initiatives face similar skepticism, interpreted as attempts at regional influence rather than genuine compassion. This phenomenon underscores how misinterpretations and mistrust distort even well-intentioned kindness, diminishing its potential to foster peace and cooperation. Reframing kindness, understanding its true power, to shift international relations away from perpetual hostility. A reframing of kindness is essential. True kindness is neither passive nor naive. Rather, it is an empowered diplomatic choice, requiring courage, strength, and strategic vision. Leaders who pursue genuine diplomatic kindness must navigate significant domestic and international criticism, demonstrating resilience and clarity in their intent. Real-world examples of successful kindness exist. Consider Egyptian-Israeli peace, brokered through diplomatic empathy and strategic compassion by leaders like Anwar Sadat and Menahem Begin. Despite immense internal criticism, their acts of kindness led to enduring peace, illustrating that compassion need not weaken, but can significantly empower diplomatic positions. Educating public opinion. The role of media and education addressing kindness misinterpretations requires reshaping public discourse. Media narratives predominantly focus on conflict, sensationalizing aggression, while rarely highlighting successful diplomatic kindness. Shifting media focus towards stories of successful diplomacy and compassionate international cooperation could gradually alter public perceptions, reducing political risks associated with kindness-based policies. Educational programs emphasizing empathy, compassion, and diplomatic history could similarly challenge misconceptions, preparing future generations to appreciate and embrace kindness, a strategic diplomatic asset, rather than dismissing it as weakness. Challenges ahead. Overcoming cultural and political barriers. Implementing genuine kindness-based policies faces considerable hurdles. Deep-rooted cultural narratives equating strength exclusively with aggression significantly hinder diplomatic innovation. Additionally, political leaders risk career-ending backlash by pursuing kindness, particularly in volatile regions where nationalism and militaristic rhetoric dominate public discourse. Nonetheless, overcoming these barriers is both achievable and necessary. Incremental shifts, backed by consistent diplomatic successes, can gradually redefine kindness within political contexts, validating it as a pragmatic and powerful strategic tool. Conclusion: rediscovering kindness as strategic diplomacy. Ultimately, the biblical proclamation, "Blessed are the kind of heart," challenges conventional diplomatic wisdom, urging a radical redefinition of geopolitical strength. True kindness, empowered and strategically employed, holds transformative potential. Its misinterpretation as weakness only perpetuates conflict, undermining opportunities for lasting peace. Correctly understood and courageously embraced, kindness becomes the cornerstone of genuine diplomacy. It embodies strength, vision, and strategic wisdom, capable of redefining relationships between even the fiercest adversaries, such as the United States, Israel, and Iran. Only through this shift can nations hope to achieve genuine stability and lasting peace, fulfilling the deeper promise of a heavenly kingdom marked by harmony rather than hostility. Part 3. Kindness and the Kingdom of Heaven. Moral Ideal versus Political Reality Introduction. Blessed are the kind of heart, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. At first glance, this profound biblical statement seems straightforward, celebrating compassion, empathy, and moral purity as pathways to spiritual reward. Yet, when juxtaposed against the complex reality of contemporary international politics, particularly the volatile dynamics involving Israel, Iran, and the United States, the practical applicability of kindness, a moral ideal, is severely tested. This section critically explores whether maintaining kindness amidst political aggression and violent conflicts is realistically achievable, or merely an unattainable philosophical aspiration. The tension between idealism and realpolitik. International relations operate on principles fundamentally distinct from individual morality. Kindness, as a personal virtue, promotes compassion, understanding, and forgiveness. Contrarily, realpolitik, the predominant practice in geopolitics, prioritizes pragmatic, power-driven strategies, often involving coercion, deterrence, and aggression. The conflicts involving Iran, Israel, and the United States vividly illustrate this tension. Diplomacy grounded in kindness struggles against aggressive policies such as sanctions, military interventions, and preemptive strikes. Leaders who prioritize compassion risk appearing weak or ineffective, leading to diminished domestic and international political capital. Yet, the core question persists: is kindness inherently incompatible with political realism? Or can it offer pragmatic solutions even in severe geopolitical crises? Kindness as moral ideal. The biblical perspective. Biblically, kindness is positioned as a moral absolute, granting spiritual reward and fulfillment. The kingdom of heaven metaphorically suggests an ideal state of peace, harmony, and justice. However, translating this moral ideal into political action in conflict-ridden regions poses significant challenges. Political decisions must navigate complex considerations of national security, public opinion, and geopolitical interests, often overshadowing moral ideals. Despite these challenges, historical evidence suggests that adhering to moral virtues like kindness can occasionally yield profound geopolitical outcomes. The peaceful resolution of apartheid in South Africa, driven by reconciliation and forgiveness, exemplifies how kindness-inspired leadership can radically transform political realities. Case study: Israel, Iran, and the limits of moral idealism. In the Israeli-Iranian context, kindness as a guiding diplomatic principle faces seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Decades of mutual hostility, driven by ideological, religious, and security concerns, have entrenched suspicion and mistrust. Both nations perceive any concession or kindness as vulnerabilities exploitable by adversaries. For instance, Israel's security doctrine emphasizes military readiness, intelligence superiority, and deterrent capabilities. Acts of diplomatic kindness toward Iran are frequently interpreted domestically as dangerously naive. Conversely, Iran views any conciliatory gestures toward Israel or the U.S. as compromising revolutionary principles, weakening internal legitimacy. Thus, kindness, though morally ideal, often appears politically impractical. Yet, this seeming impracticality does not diminish its potential power. Rather, it emphasizes the immense courage and vision required to pursue it authentically. Kindness amid aggression, practicality, and possibilities. Despite prevailing skepticism, certain geopolitical contexts demonstrate that kindness, even amid aggressive scenarios, is both possible and strategically beneficial. The Abraham Accords, established between Israel and several Arab states, provide a notable contemporary example. This diplomatic breakthrough, characterized by mutual recognition and normalization, demonstrates that kindness-inspired diplomacy grounded in empathy, cooperation, and mutual interest can tangibly transform regional dynamics. In contrast, ongoing aggressive tactics employed by the U.S. and Iran, ranging from sanctions and proxy warfare to provocative military drills, repeatedly fail to resolve underlying tensions. Instead, these actions perpetuate instability, mistrust, and insecurity. Hence, even within aggressive contexts, kindness holds untapped potential for achieving sustainable geopolitical stability. Rethinking political realities. Kindness as pragmatic wisdom. Reconciling kindness with political realism necessitates reframing kindness not merely as a moral ideal, but as pragmatic wisdom. Kindness, when strategically implemented, can build lasting alliances, diffuse conflicts, and create stable geopolitical environments. Examples include humanitarian diplomacy, cooperative economic agreements, and carefully mediated negotiations, all informed by empathy and understanding rather than coercion. Such strategic kindness is evident historically, from post-World War II Europe to South Korea's diplomatic outreach toward North Korea. In each case, diplomatic kindness and cooperation, rather than aggression, facilitated peace and stability. The psychological dimensions. Shaping public and political attitudes. Public opinion significantly influences political realities. Political leaders, responsive to aggressive or nationalistic public sentiment, often neglect kindness-based diplomacy due to fear of backlash. Consequently, fostering kindness as pragmatic political wisdom requires comprehensive shifts in public consciousness, emphasizing empathy, cooperation, and mutual understanding. Educational initiatives, media engagement, and public discourse emphasizing the benefits of diplomatic kindness could gradually reshape political cultures. Over time, these cultural shifts could empower leaders to pursue compassion-based policies without fearing political repercussions. Navigating risks. Kindness as courageous leadership. Leadership committed to kindness amidst political aggression requires immense courage. Such leaders risk reputational damage, political isolation, and potential backlash from domestic and international adversaries. Nonetheless, courageous acts of kindness in geopolitics historically yield profound transformations. For instance, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat's historic visit to Israel exemplified courageous diplomatic kindness, ultimately achieving lasting peace despite initial domestic and regional hostility. Such leadership courageously rejects aggression in favor of compassion, demonstrating kindness as transformative power in politics. Practical steps forward. Kindness as policy. Implementing kindness in geopolitics demands concrete, strategic policies. These could include sustained diplomatic engagement, humanitarian initiatives, cultural exchanges, cooperative economic agreements, and proactive conflict resolution mechanisms. Incremental yet consistent kindness-informed policies can gradually build trust, diminish aggression, and reshape geopolitical landscapes. The international community's role in supporting and legitimizing kindness-based diplomacy is also crucial. Multilateral institutions and global diplomatic efforts can reinforce kindness, providing legitimacy and encouragement to leaders embracing compassionate diplomatic strategies. Conclusion: kindness as essential pragmatism. Ultimately, the biblical statement, "Blessed are the kind of heart," challenges conventional geopolitical wisdom, urging humanity toward compassionate leadership even amidst conflict. Although kindness initially appears impractical within aggressive political realities, deeper analysis reveals profound pragmatic wisdom. Embracing kindness, strategic diplomacy, combined with courageous leadership and supportive public attitudes, holds the potential to transform international relations profoundly. Indeed, genuine kindness could fulfill the profound promise of the biblical kingdom of heaven not merely as spiritual idealism, but as tangible, achievable geopolitical reality. Part 4. Kindness as Strategic Advantage. Case studies from Israel, Iran, and the U.S. Introduction. Blessed are the kind of heart, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. While traditionally viewed as a moral and spiritual virtue, kindness in contemporary geopolitics is rarely acknowledged as a viable strategic tool. Yet, history and current events suggest that kindness, strategically employed, can serve as a powerful diplomatic instrument. By examining detailed case studies involving the United States, Israel, and Iran, this section explores the significant geopolitical advantages kindness can provide, challenging conventional wisdom that equates strength exclusively with aggression. Strategic kindness defined. Strategic kindness refers to deliberate acts of compassion, humanitarian aid, diplomatic patience, and empathy intentionally employed to foster goodwill, reduce tensions, and achieve sustainable geopolitical outcomes. Unlike traditional strategic instruments, such as military threats or economic sanctions, strategic kindness proactively builds trust, enhances cooperation, and mitigates hostility. Case Study 1. U.S. Humanitarian Aid and Soft Power. Historically, the United States has employed humanitarian aid as a key component of its soft power strategy. The post-World War II Marshall Plan remains a prominent example of strategic kindness, where substantial American aid to devastated European nations fostered long-term alliances, stability, and economic prosperity. This act of geopolitical kindness significantly strengthened America's international influence, showcasing compassion as an effective diplomatic tool. In contemporary contexts, the U.S. continues humanitarian diplomacy through initiatives like disaster relief and global health programs, for example, combating HIV and AIDS in Africa. These strategic acts of kindness enhance America's global image, create lasting partnerships, and generate political capital, highlighting how compassion can reinforce geopolitical strength more sustainably than aggression or coercion. Limitations and risks. Misinterpretation and cynicism. While strategic kindness offers substantial advantages, it also faces significant limitations and risks. Foremost is the potential misinterpretation of kindness as manipulative or self-serving, leading to increased skepticism or rejection by recipient nations. For instance, U.S. humanitarian efforts in conflict zones occasionally provoke accusations of underlying political agendas, undermining genuine goodwill efforts. Additionally, domestic political landscapes in Israel, Iran, and the U.S. can challenge strategic kindness. Leaders may face domestic criticism for appearing weak, naive, or appeasing adversaries. Consequently, strategic kindness demands careful execution, transparent communication, and consistent demonstration of genuine intent to mitigate these risks. Practical implementation. Recommendations for strategic kindness. To maximize strategic kindness effectively, nations should consider the following practical recommendations: transparency and consistency. Ensure humanitarian and diplomatic efforts are transparent, consistently demonstrating genuine intent to build trust and goodwill. Multilateral cooperation. Engage in cooperative initiatives involving multiple international actors, leveraging collective legitimacy to mitigate skepticism or misinterpretation. Strategic communication. Clearly communicate objectives, emphasizing mutual benefit rather than unilateral advantages to strengthen credibility, cultural sensitivity, and empathy. Tailor kindness-based initiatives to cultural contexts, demonstrating genuine empathy and respect, thus enhancing effectiveness. The role of media and public opinion. Strategic kindness effectiveness significantly depends on public perception, shaped heavily by media narratives. Media coverage that emphasizes genuine humanitarian and diplomatic efforts rather than sensationalizing conflict can positively influence public opinion, empowering political leaders to pursue strategic kindness without political backlash. Thus, media engagement becomes critical in promoting strategic kindness as both morally commendable and politically pragmatic. Conclusion: embracing kindness as geopolitical wisdom. Ultimately, strategic kindness emerges as a powerful, albeit underutilized, diplomatic instrument in international politics. Detailed case studies from Israel, Iran, and the United States reveal that kindness, strategically employed, can yield substantial diplomatic advantages, enhancing geopolitical stability and global peace. Far from weakness or naivete, kindness demonstrates pragmatic wisdom, building enduring trust, improving diplomatic relations, and ultimately fulfilling the deeper biblical promise leading humanity toward a metaphorical kingdom of heaven characterized by peace, cooperation, and mutual respect rather than perpetual hostility. Part 5. Reimagining the Kingdom of Heaven. A future built on kindness. Introduction. Blessed are the kind of heart, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This enduring biblical statement offers profound insight. Envisioning a future where kindness and compassion serve as foundational principles for global coexistence. Yet, amidst the turbulent geopolitical realities involving the United States, Israel, and Iran, this vision seems distant, even utopian. Nonetheless, reimagining international relations built upon genuine kindness provides a compelling, attainable pathway towards sustainable peace and global stability. From utopian ideal to practical reality, the phrase kingdom of heaven metaphorically symbolizes an ideal world marked by peace, harmony, and mutual understanding. Translating this vision into international relations implies establishing diplomatic norms where kindness is prioritized over hostility, empathy over suspicion, and cooperation over coercion. Though skeptics dismiss such a vision as utopian, historical precedents, such as post-World War II Europe, the peaceful resolution of apartheid in South Africa, and the Abraham Accords illustrate the practical viability and immense potential of kindness-based diplomacy. Envisioning kindness in U.S.-Iran relations. Currently, U.S.-Iran relations remain fraught with tension, suspicion, and mutual hostility. Imagining a future relationship built on kindness involves deliberate, empathetic diplomacy aimed at mutual benefit rather than domination or coercion. Practical steps could include easing sanctions in exchange for verifiable diplomatic cooperation, expanding cultural and educational exchanges, and prioritizing diplomatic channels over military posturing. This approach would gradually diminish mutual suspicion, promoting understanding and cooperative engagement. Over time, sustained kindness-based diplomacy could transform hostile relationships into productive partnerships, reshaping geopolitical dynamics across the entire Middle East region. Israel-Iran, a potential future grounded in kindness. The Israeli-Iranian conflict, deeply rooted in ideological and geopolitical hostility, poses significant challenges. However, a kindness-based approach, though challenging, remains possible. Diplomatic kindness in this context would initially involve humanitarian gestures, cultural diplomacy, and incremental confidence-building measures. Over time, consistent kindness-informed policies could reduce hostility, gradually shifting narratives away from conflict toward mutual respect and peaceful coexistence. Such incremental yet persistent diplomatic kindness, supported by multilateral institutions and global diplomacy, could eventually overcome decades of entrenched mistrust, facilitating genuine dialogue and reconciliation. Kindness and the future of U.S.-Israel relations. U.S.-Israel relations, historically strong but occasionally complicated, could also significantly benefit from prioritizing kindness-based diplomacy, emphasizing mutual respect, transparent dialogue, and cooperation on shared humanitarian initiatives can strengthen bilateral ties further, positively influencing regional stability. U.S. diplomatic kindness toward both Israeli and Palestinian stakeholders focusing on equitable, empathetic solutions could profoundly transform regional dynamics, rather than perpetuating divisive narratives. Kindness-driven diplomacy emphasizes inclusive solutions, fostering sustainable peace and mutual prosperity. Educational and cultural transformation. Reimagining a global future founded upon kindness necessitates significant educational and cultural transformations. Education systems globally must prioritize teaching empathy, intercultural understanding, and conflict resolution skills. Cultivating kindness as a foundational value from early childhood education through higher education can profoundly reshape public consciousness, reducing susceptibility to divisive political narratives. Moreover, international cultural exchanges promoting mutual understanding and respect can significantly reduce hostility, laying essential groundwork for diplomatic kindness and peaceful coexistence. The role of media in promoting kindness. Media profoundly shapes public perceptions and political attitudes. Currently, sensationalizing conflict frequently eclipses positive narratives. However, media committed to highlighting diplomatic successes, humanitarian initiatives, and cross-cultural empathy can significantly reshape public perceptions, creating environments conducive to kindness-based diplomacy. Encouraging responsible journalism, committed to balanced narratives emphasizing peaceful solutions and diplomatic kindness, is crucial. This shift could powerfully influence political climates, empowering leaders to pursue compassion-based policies without fearing backlash. International institutions and global cooperation. Multilateral institutions like the United Nations, European Union, and regional organizations hold significant potential in promoting kindness-driven diplomacy. By proactively supporting humanitarian initiatives, mediating diplomatic negotiations, and advocating for peaceful resolutions, these institutions can effectively legitimize kindness as diplomatic wisdom. Strengthening multilateral frameworks committed to cooperation, empathy, and peaceful coexistence can significantly mitigate geopolitical tensions, transforming global diplomatic culture fundamentally. The active support and engagement of these institutions provide essential legitimacy, encouraging nations to adopt kindness-informed policies confidently. Challenges and realities. Courageous leadership required despite immense potential. Realizing a kindness-based diplomatic future involves substantial challenges. Political leaders embracing kindness risk facing severe domestic criticism, accusations of weakness, or even political isolation. Overcoming entrenched hostility and mistrust requires extraordinary political courage, strategic vision, and resilience. Yet, historical precedents demonstrate that courageous kindness-based leadership can profoundly transform geopolitical realities. Figures like Nelson Mandela, Anwar Sadat, and Mikhail Gorbachev exemplify how kindness, courageously employed, can fundamentally reshape international relations, fostering enduring peace and cooperation. A practical roadmap. Implementing kindness diplomacy. Realizing the envisioned future demands practical, incremental actions. These include prioritizing sustained diplomatic engagement over aggression or coercion, investing consistently in humanitarian and cultural diplomacy, promoting educational programs globally that emphasize empathy, conflict resolution, and intercultural understanding, actively involving international institutions to provide legitimacy and support for kindness-based initiatives, encouraging media narratives that highlight peaceful resolutions and diplomatic kindness, reshaping public perceptions. Collectively, these actions can incrementally yet consistently build a diplomatic future grounded in genuine kindness, significantly reducing geopolitical hostilities. Conclusion. Toward the kingdom of heaven through kindness. Ultimately, reimagining international relations founded upon kindness provides not merely a utopian vision, but a pragmatic, achievable pathway toward global peace and stability. The biblical promise of the kingdom of heaven need not remain metaphorical. It can manifest tangibly through strategic, courageous kindness-based diplomacy. In embracing this profound wisdom, humanity possesses the power to fundamentally transform geopolitical dynamics, fostering a global community characterized by compassion, cooperation, and enduring peace. Kindness, far from mere idealism, emerges as essential geopolitical pragmatism, leading humanity toward a genuinely harmonious future, the true kingdom of heaven envisioned in